Hi, I'm Dr. Andrea Stover, licensed marriage and family therapist, and you're listening to the Modern Day Romantic Podcast. Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. Today, we're going to be talking about why being too nice is actually a vice and how this translates in relationships and what we can do about it. So let's start by talking about what it means to be nice and how we come to feel that this is virtuous to be nice. I've never lived in any country other than America, so I'm speaking from an American social, cultural framework when I talk about this. I know not every culture is set up in this way, but I really think there's something about in America putting forth, the smiley face, putting forth, kindness and I say actually kindness when I really mean niceness, because I'm not sure that we're that kind to one another, but there's this almost superficial pleasantries, and that's okay. Every culture is going to have its customs, its rituals, its norms. So like how we greet each other, for example, how we say goodbye. Oh, have a nice day. Those types of things. And whether or not the person actually means them or not that's saying it to us, it's like, oh, okay, that was nice. I can move forward. You were kind to me, or that left a good taste in my mouth, kind of thing. So we want to feel good. It's kind of what this thing is. We want to feel like everything's going according to plan. Everyone is polite. Everyone is nice. Things are good. We can be positive. We can be optimistic. And I think about, I don't know where it all comes from, but I think about, maybe imagining being on the playground and watching, parents say, hey, be nice, don't be mean. No, we don't do that. Be nice. Or, oh, that's so nice. So there's from early on, we're being conditioned about this nice thing. And I think it's a way of growing and developing each of us to be civilized, to be able to be functioning members of a society. And again, society has to agree upon what its values are and how it is that it's going to put forth, its particular customs and rituals and so forth. So there we are, little tiny beings, and we start growing and we're developing, and we are not only a part of our family of origin, but our family of origin is a part of a society. And whatever those values are going to be within the society are going to somehow trickle into our family of origin as well. That doesn't mean that they're going to match up one for one, because we could come from a place that doesn't necessarily value the same things as the culture within which one is being raised. But generally speaking, I think it's safe to say that America values being nice. Okay, so here's the thing when it comes to relationships is if you carry that forward into your everyday relationship, into a committed partnership with someone, I think that's a great idea, to be nice. And what I really think works underneath that is to do no harm. Like you're not intending to hurt the other person. You have a softness, or at least a consideration for the person. If you have something to say, maybe that would maybe not feel the greatest to receive as information or communication from you, you have empathy, right? There's empathy there. But I don't think being empathetic means you have to be nice all the time, because what I really think we mean when we say nice is, don't be disagreeable. Don't make someone feel a certain way, which, by the way, I think we could have an interesting discussion around that. Can we actually make someone feel a certain way or not? Probably yes. And also some of it, we may be giving ourselves too much power or credit for being able to have that much sway or influence over another. But generally speaking, I think when we say be nice, we're afraid of conflict and we're afraid of the messiness of the unknown, of uncertainty, of speaking the truth and not knowing how the other might respond to us in our truth. So sometimes I think in relationships, when it's like, hey, be nice, don't be mean, I don't know if people mean don't be mean or if it's don't be truthful. Because there's a way to speak the truth, there's a way to be truthful and not be quote unquote mean. But I think it's about the delivery and it's about being respectful. So you can be truthful and respectful of yourself and the other person as you convey whatever the truth is for you in that particular instance. So without truth, we can't have a real relationship. Sit with that for a minute. If we're not being truthful, and that by the way doesn't just mean with another person, it's also with ourselves. If we somehow keep ourselves blocked off or blinded from being able to see the truth, live out the truth that is us or that's relevant or resonant with us, then we're not even really in right relationship with ourselves, let alone with others. And I think as we keep kind of peeling this back, this phenomenon back of how being nice actually leads to a lot of self suppression, which then sometimes leads to a loss of energy. It leads to depression. It leads to pent up anger. It leads to unexpected or intermittent, snapping at someone, or maybe even an explosion at times, all because we thought we were being nice. And maybe you've been being nice for years and not fully being you as a result. So there's a difference between being respectful, being kind, being considerate, being empathetic, while also still being able to speak your truth and show up as you in a relationship. That's not the same thing as cutting off, 50% of your being, let's say, and acting like that doesn't exist inside of you so that you can stay in that nicety bubble, and have these pleasantries and these interactions or exchanges with your partner. Or, again, we're talking about romantic relationships here, but this could translate into work relationships. It could translate into other family relationships, friendships, out in society at large, all sorts of ways that this can show up. So I'm really wanting you to be thinking about how being too nice can actually be the exact opposite of what you're intending. Meaning, being too nice can be an act of violence against yourself because you're being too considerate of the other while negating you, negating your personhood. And I don't see how you're ever going to have an authentic, real relationship if you can't even fully be there to be a part of that with someone. And I really think these are those, again, suppressed kind of ticking time bombs that all of a sudden one day someone wakes up and says, I can't do this anymore. Or all of a sudden, someone is really, and I shouldn't say all of a sudden, but maybe, all along there's this growing resentment or some type of a shutting down of sorts. The relationship starts to lose some of its luster. It starts to lose some of that connectivity because there's no space for us in it. And I would really question if that's true or if that's how we've been conditioned to believe that that's true. And not just by partners, because again, I set this up. It's society. It's the larger systems that we have in place. So I don't think that the answer is to swing in the opposite direction, which is what I think rebellious behavior does at times, which is, hey, I'm going to throw off all of these expectations for how I'm supposed to be, and I'm just going to be my own self, do it my way kind of thing, because I don't really know that that is relational in nature. That's just reactivity to something that doesn't work for you. So this is the hard work, is finding the middle, finding the both and, finding the way to still be integrous to who you are, to what's true for you. And by the way, that could also mean taking the time to discover or reintegrate some of those fragmented or disowned parts of yourself that you had to disconnect from early on because they weren't nice, or they weren't going to be acceptable, whether that be, again, from teachers as you were going through the school system, whether that be from your family, whether that be from your peers, whatever societal messaging you received around, hey, this part of me is not acceptable, and therefore I need to, disassociate from it somehow and just kind of keep moving forward with this smile on my face and as if everything is okay, when that's not the truth. That's not the truth, because you're not being all of you. So I think that that's something I really wanted to put forth with this, being nice. And, being nice can also be a cover for other parts of ourselves. Like if we don't feel safe, if we don't have enough experience and security in knowing that the other will receive us, that the other will accept us for being who we are, then we might be nice to a fault out of fear of rejection. And another way I think being nice can show up is what's called fawning. So that's a defense mechanism as well. It's a reaction when we don't feel safe, that we tend to overdo it with complimenting someone or being extra nice or extra all about them. And if you fall into that, that might also be another point of reflection or a way into this, to say, what is it that makes me feel unsafe in this encounter with this particular person? Or is this a generalization, across the board? I don't feel like life will allow me to be me, and therefore I need to show up as, extra bright, extra cheery, extra all about the other. And all of this, the reason I wanted to talk about this so much today is because it's an act of violence against the self. And the real tragedy in this is that this can be happening without anyone else knowing it. No one else may know what's happening inside of you. And I think these things can also show up in other ways. So it doesn't mean that you've kind of suppressed that other part of yourself that doesn't want to play the game of being nice all the time. Hey, maybe you want to say, you know what? Thanks for bringing this meal, to my table. And it kind of sucked. It didn't taste very good. Why can't you be truthful, right? And it's okay to do those anyways. So I think we don't want to make other people feel bad, right? Highly empathetic people, it's like, oh, I got to take care of them. I don't want to make them feel bad. But what about you? Where's the space? Where's the room? And to get out of all of this, the niceties, to be real. So it doesn't mean like you go degrading the waiter or the waitress or anything like that for serving the food that they didn't even make, by the way, that didn't taste that good to you. But why can't you just say, it wasn't my favorite, but it's okay? I mean, truthful, honest, totally fine. Anyways, sometimes these things don't show up in the, all that suppressed energy, all of that suppressed truth. the being that you are, all of you, sometimes it can take root in your tissues. Think about that. And I'm not trying to say anything like this is a total fact and the only reason why we get sick, let's say. But I do think there has to be something to all of those parts of ourselves that we use so much force to kind of keep down, to not allow out to see the light of day. And therefore that has to turn against us somehow. And maybe that's leads to some type of chronic pain in the body. Maybe that's kind of suppressed energy or emotions or self that is deeply bound up in those tissues of your low back that's hurting, let's say, or the neck or something like that. And even worse, like it could get even worse than that too. So I'm just saying, I think that if this isn't for everyone, but if you are a person that tends to be extra nice, you probably have a heart and you probably are highly empathetic, and that's wonderful. And I'm asking, are you also willing to care for yourself in the way that you consider others? Are you considerate of you just as much? Because you are an equal part of that relationship. You matter too. And if you're more prone to taking in or observing or tending to or fawning over the other at the expense of yourself, you're really going to want to take a look at that and see that perhaps in your case, being too nice has actually become a vice. It's not a virtue. It's not something that you would want to put forth and raise future generations. You wouldn't wish that upon your child, for example, right? Like you would want them to be able to be in the middle, to be able to be truthful and not have that internalized suffering of, I have to carry around this internal conflict because to say something would be mean and I can't be mean. No, saying something would be truthful. And the truth allows for real relating. It allows for spontaneity. It allows for, what's going to happen next? So this, hopefully you're hearing what I'm saying. And for anyone who's on the too nice end of the spectrum, we can shake it up a bit and we can say, hey, just because you might be inching your way a little bit, more towards the midline doesn't make you quote unquote mean. It doesn't make you a terrible person. You want to be nice to yourself as well. So I just thought this was really important to discuss, especially when it comes to relationships, because these things can get deeply embedded in our patterns and our ways of showing up. And sometimes we know what we want to say, but we just don't feel we can because it's violating the internal sense of, hey, that wouldn't be nice. And I'm encouraging and even challenging you to say, maybe it's unkind and not nice to not be truthful as well. There are certain times and places, and all of this requires context, but maybe there's a way to have the both and, to be truthful and considerate of the other. That by being you is not a direct affront or offense to someone else. It's okay to be you, and I don't know who else you're going to be if you're not being you, unless you want to walk around and be, this kind of nice and only nice and smiley face and, 50% of yourself, but not 100%. So embracing you, finding if this is you, how has nice turned it to being too nice, turned into a vice? Where's your middle ground? And how is this impacting your relationships? It's really, really important. All right. Thanks for listening. Thanks so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you're interested in learning about ways to work with me, head over to my website, themoderndayromantic.com. From there, you'll be able to contact me and learn a bit more about the customized intensives and retreats I offer both individuals and couples. You'll also be able to support future podcast production via Patreon. There are several membership levels to choose from, including the Beating Hearts Club, which gives you access to exclusive content every month. Thanks so much for your support, and I'll see you next episode.